All right, we're back. Week 5 is in the books in the NFL season.
Right.
It's going fast. The season is going extremely fast. I can't believe we're already through week 5.
Well,
it's been a great first 5 weeks of the season. A lot of good games. Still, a lot to figure out with who are the really good football teams, who are going to be the surprise football teams. Actually, we know who some of the really good football teams are, and we're going to discuss one of those at length here today in the show. But a great weekend. And had another exciting weekend of just watching football all day long. It's never ending, but it is fun.
Yeah.
And how was your weekend in studio with CBS and the boys?
Well, it was really good. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I thought we made some good points, try to stay on top. It's amazing. If I predict in the studio, it's always wrong. And you talk about the season's going fast. Let me tell you, big boy, life goes fast. I mean, I look in there and go, oh, my gosh, I'm how old? And, so
the days are long, the years are fast. That's for sure.
No, the days are long, the years are short.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, see, I got to correct everything.
Yeah.
But, no. And the season's going fast, and we change our opinions, and we think we know every week when the week is over.
Yeah.
And then the following week we go, wow, what was I thinking? That's what I do. I mean, first and just foremost, I said, boy, the Cowboys have a really good chance to upset the 49ers. Why? I think the Cowboys are talented. 2, I thought emotion from losing the other 2 games was going to be so big, and it was so fired up and show all this stuff that they could hang in there and maybe find a way to win. And, man, that thought went out the window pretty quick for me. So,
yeah, and that's the game that we're going to dive into for Week 5. We highlighted as our favorite game last episode that we had together. And we're going to really just kind of be very heavy on San Francisco, Dallas, and really explain to you just how we saw the football game. Obviously, I have a little bit of background, too, being coached by Kyle Shanahan, being a part of that Atlanta Falcons team. I can at least peel back the curtain just a little bit as far as how this team approaches their mindset, the scheme, why it's so effective, and why it's so difficult to defend. What are just some of your first initial thoughts on the game?
Well, I'm going to ask you a few questions about all those things as we go along. I think my first thought is, now they played 3 times, once each the last 3 years. And here's what my first thing when it was over there, and I said, wow, San Francisco much more creative. I think they have better players overall. I think that's on display. The QB play has been better for San Francisco. Many reasons why, opportunities and things like that. But I think San Francisco they keep moving forward in every aspect, physically and mentally. And I don't think right now the Cowboys, after that game, I don't think I can't say the same thing about them.
And let's highlight Brian Coyle. So Brian Coyle, who works with you at CBS and does a lot of the background information for you guys and helps you with the production of those shows.
Been involved with a few NFL teams too. Been in the front office, the Dolphins, the Bengals, or had jobs with them. He's got relatives that are in the business big time, so I always respect what he has to say. But go ahead. What are some of the numbers?
So Brian Coyle,
stat of the week.
These for the past 3 matchups that we've seen between these 2 teams, Cowboys offense, 4 offensive touchdowns, 4.4 yards per play, which in today's modern NFL is not very good. 13 points per game. And it's going to be very difficult to beat a team like San Francisco if you're averaging 13 points a game. In the 3 meetings, San Francisco is plus 45 in point differential, 10 sacks in San Francisco's favor, and then 7 turnovers. They've caused 7 turnovers in these 3 matchups. So San Francisco, right now, what we're seeing a separation, the degree of separation from the first time that they met till this last weekend continues to get larger and larger, and pretty significantly, too. It's not one of these where, hey, we think they can win. Hey, they got some opportunities. Very quickly in the game, it seemed like the air in their sails, Dallas, left very fast.
Well, let me start with this. I rewatched the game yesterday really close as I could.
Yeah.
And the San Francisco offense. I remember when the game was over, I was keeping little notes, and I said they had 1 shift or 2 shifts, a shift and a motion, every play but one. I didn't look up stats and all that. I do my own, and because this is what I get a feel for the game that way. But every play, and I'm going to ask you. So when a team does that, the motions, They had double shifts. I mean, everybody's moving everywhere. And I see the Cowboys doing a little bit of this, and everybody's shifting with it. And, and all of a sudden, you said it to me, which I thought, and we'll go on other things, but you said, mentally, that is fatiguing for the defense. And I went, wow, I've never said it that way, but I will a lot of times the rest of the year as I steal that thought. But it's really kind of true. When you get bogged down of just what's my responsibility now, it's hard to be that physical great player that you want to be.
It really is difficult. And this was something that we discussed during the Las Vegas Raiders game versus the Green Bay Packers. I said, all right, check out these few plays here. And there was multiple plays in a row, both offenses, whether it was the Packers or the Raiders. I was like, look how much communication has to go on behind the line of scrimmage here for the defense.
Yep.
Not much, because they were in pretty stagnant formations. Everything was very still. What you saw at the beginning is how the play developed as it went on. And for the defenses, it's very easy for them to read their keys, to play fast, to react. And that was something that we've noticed, right, with this Dallas Cowboys defense. They're fast. Man, they are disruptive. They are athletic. All of that gets thrown out the window when you have to over-communicate every little detail, shift and motion, how you're going to play this formation. When you shift the running back out, who has him in man coverage? Who covers him in zone? How do we expand these zone coverages? Who has the flat? Who has the hook? And then gap control, especially in the run game, which is extremely difficult too. And that was one thing that Shanahan really focused on in our meetings and installs when we were with the Falcons, when we went to the Super Bowl. The A, the B, the C, the D gap, all of this, right? He'd go through it and he goes, all right, in the first quarter, they might be covered, all of them. But as we continue to run and expand the offense and wear the defense out, this A gap will be larger, the B gap will be larger, the C gap will be larger, because they won't be able to hang with us for that amount of time. And it's true. And we see that each and every game that San Francisco plays, that the runs that they have early on might go for 4 or 5 yards, but it's good yards. It's tough yards. Right. As you see later in the game, those are 8-yard carries. Those are 22-yard carries. And it just continues to compile with what they're doing offensively as far as their scheme, their attack and approach. Brock Purdy being a great just master and commander of that ship.
Oh, no question.
And it's really impressive, and it's super fun to watch. It really is. And it just shows you that the San Francisco 49ers, they're playing chess. The old cliche, they're playing chess. And I don't even know if the Cowboys are playing checkers, so to speak, at times.
Well, we'll get into the Cowboys a little later. I think we're
going to focus on the 49ers.
Yes,
and as we explain to you why the 49ers are so good, that will explain to you kind of the deficiencies of what we see from the Dallas Cowboys and what they need to improve on.
Well, here's another thought that I have with San Francisco.
Yeah.
Of course, we all go, and I do it too, and we all have to. Their talent. They got maybe the best left tackle in football. Okay, just say that. But all the talent they got, Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, the quarterback, but what Kyle Shanahan and his staff they give it a chance. They're all good, but they're giving them chances and opportunities to make them great.
Right.
And that is really true. I mean, even I think back to my career, we'd have some special plays or do them, and I go, wow, this is – the coaches were making the play for us, and the execution from the player part becomes much easier. And I think one thing that really comes out and stands out when you watch them, and you said this to me last night, because I said it looks like the 49ers always have the best angle to block one of these big dudes up front.
Yeah.
And you go, well, of course, and you kind of.
Well, that plays right into what you're discussing and what we notice, right? Everyone at home, the shifts and motions. All of those aspects are to gain a man advantage.
It's not just for.
It's
just not for we want to do it. It's always
it's for a purpose. There is a reason behind it. They want you to line up in a certain look, and then they want you to communicate how to get realigned to a formation that is totally different than the one that started the play.
Well, tell me this: were you doing as much as Kyle does now? Were y'all doing that in Atlanta?
So when we were in Atlanta, I would say that we were a little bit more condensed with our formations. We were definitely still creative in the running game.
Right.
We were still creative in the play action passing game. The one thing that I see differently now is that the field seems a little bit more spread out sideline to sideline with the formations.
Right.
I think Christian McCaffrey definitely adds that element to them. We did that a lot with Devontae Freeman in Atlanta, and he had a phenomenal year, both as a receiver and as a runner. But we did a lot of the stuff that we did with him in the pass game out of the backfield, where we see a mixture of that more so with Christian McCaffrey, where he's extended more in a receiver position more often.
Well, let me
and
say
even
this.
Kyle Juszczyk as well.
Yes.
I mean,
he'll line up as a receiver.
There's another guy, he's a fullback, and he's catching slants and shifts. And, what an advantage that is, too, to be able to have a guy like him where you think it's 21 personnel, which is typically a very heavy run set type of a look, right, as a play caller on defense. And then you got Kyle Juszczyk running really efficient, slants across your linebacker versus zone coverage and winning often.
Well, let me say this,
screen passes
as you say all this. When they say, I've said many times, the 49ers pass game is over the middle.
Yeah.
And when you say they've expanded the field, and we saw it right from the start, and the game on Sunday night is they throw sideline routes more now than I've seen. These are just general thoughts.
Yeah, as the season goes, week by week, they're doing more of it.
They're doing more and more. The offense is definitely expanding the field, but the thought process is expanding too.
It definitely. And what's funny, when you watch the film, if you guys do end up watching the film at home, and if you rewatch it on TV, when you watch these plays develop, they're the same typical plays that everyone in the league is running. It's very basic as far as the concept of the routes, right? It's a flag with 2 short 5-yard unders, or in breakers is what their unders are called, and or shins as they probably call it, short in their offense. But you see everybody run these things, but the way that they get to them, the way that they call the plays. So many times in when I'm watching college football, I get upset because I feel like most college play callers just call stuff. They just, we'll run this play, and then we'll run this play, and then we'll throw this play at them, and they just throw shit against the wall.
Well, tell me all this. As you say all this, all the motions and shifts.
But there's a certain symphony to it,
and that's
question. Why it's
I know
impressive.
He's not doing it just to show, we're going to shift just to shift because that's what we do. No, but practice. Boy, I sounded like Jim Mora there. Practice? My voice cracked. But, in practice, how long that's the difference between college and pros. Pros, you have all day to learn this stuff. In college, the window is shorter.
Yeah.
But in practice, all the motions and shifts, man, you get used to it, but that's a lot of learning for everybody.
Yeah, it is. This is also why I think they value football junkies as far as players on their team. And I mean that in a positive too. I don't mean that like in a negative by any means, but just they want guys on their team that are obsessed with football, that really are football players.
Right.
We've discussed this multiple times, right? There's a lot of guys in the NFL that are really good NFL football players that are very talented, but they're not in love with football. It's not their first love.
Yeah.
And I think that's the opposite. The San Francisco 49ers have great football players who are also obsessed with the game of football, and football is their first love.
Yeah, I won't go into the story, but I saw Julian Edelman yesterday on TV, and I listened, and he was kind of saying the same thing. And he was saying, he was going into detail. They got guys that lay on the grass and smell it or something. I was like, wow, but I believe it.
But see, Julian was one of those guys. He was one of those guys that made New England what they were.
Absolutely.
Because they were finding those type of players. And it is important. It really is something that I think occasionally gets overlooked. We had this discussion when we were doing the draft process this past summer. Excuse me. And I said to you, the most important thing to me is, like, I want to know the guy that I'm coaching. I want him to really like the game. I want him to be enthusiastic about learning and getting better about the game. And then I'll be excited about the talent and all the other attributes and measurables that he has to it. And this is what I think the 49ers have excelled at. They have guys that are just they're crazy, and they're crazy about football. And it's a good crazy, and you could see it, too, that they really are obsessed with just making each other better. So the reason why I make this point and why I keep nailing it home is that the plays and the concepts of the offense, very simple when you just kind of move all the shifts and motions and formations away.
Right.
But when you understand how to shift, how to motion, why we're doing it, why it's giving you an advantage in the pass game, why it's giving you an advantage in the run game, that's where you start to be like, whoa, this is awesome. We are going to have a leg up on every football team we play. Even if we're not the most talented team, we're going to have a great advantage. Now the problem is for the NFL is that they are the most talented team, and they have this advantage of their scheme too. Well, and that's really what should be concerning for the rest of the NFL.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple. I want to ask you a few questions. One, I saw on TV this morning the flea flicker they ran. Yeah. I saw it during the game. I said, wow, that looked just like the one that I saw earlier in the day with the Detroit Lions throwing. Yeah. And you know what? There was a reason. They saw it and go, wow, let's do it. And I don't know if they had it in or they put it in before the game or what, but it looked like they had a hot potato. I got it, you got it, you got it, and they threw it for the touchdown, wide open. But one thing I want to ask you, and you said this last night, and I said, Kyle, and they talked about it during the game, is going over stuff and thinking of new things all the way up to like an hour before the game.
Right.
And you said, yeah, because he wants to stay ahead of everybody, mostly all the coaches that have been there who are now gone. And when you start talking about Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel.
Well, yeah, let's
just go ahead.
The one point that I would like to make about that, right, when you discuss the other coaches that you're mentioning,
right,
this is what I think has really invigorated him to be even more creative, right? And I'm going to say this in another positive too, right? Kyle is paranoid, but in a good way.
That's okay.
He has tremendous paranoia. He really does. Good. And he's always paranoid about if I don't figure out the one play that we need to win us the game. That was one thing that it always drove Matt Ryan crazy.
Right.
Because we were constantly adding plays late in the process. And Matt Ryan, to his credit, was just more comfortable with, like, he wants to know the plan, he wants to study the plan, and he wants to be on top of it and be, like, super, just comfortable with what they're doing so he can think like Kyle. The problem is that Kyle doesn't stop that process.
Yeah.
There is no, all right, it's Friday, it's over, I'm done installing. If he has an idea Friday night, it's going to be in the play call list the next day.
Right.
And so there was one running joke there for a while between me, Matt LaFleur, who's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and Kyle. We would get done with our Saturday night meetings in the hotel before the game. And everyone would walk out. We'd usually have some sort of bet between the QBs and coaches about some college game that was going on that night. I would wait for Matt Schaub and Matt Ryan to leave, and I would stay there with LaFleur and Kyle. And I was like, okay, well, what's our halftime adjustment? And basically the halftime adjustment was something that Kyle had thought of before Saturday, wanted to add to it, but he just didn't want to piss off Matt Ryan. So he just kind of kept it close to his chest and was like, yeah, this is going to be our halftime adjustment. So it was pretty funny because I would love going in at halftime and they'd be like, all right, hey, we're going to do this and this play, and we're going to shift to here and do this. And Matt Ryan would be like, yep, I love it. Great idea. Yeah, they're doing this. So this would be a great counter for that. And Kyle, I'd look at all of them and I'd be like, this is hilarious. So,
that's great.
But it was just... it just kind of gives you a little bit of just, it never ends. It never ends. And of course, like with any great player, great coach, anyone who's played, your great losses, I think, continue to inspire you to be better, to better yourself. And, when you've been so close, like we were in Atlanta, like he was in San Francisco recently
close
too.
A lot, yes.
This is where I think that drive continues to push him to be innovative. And to go back to the point you were mentioning he has multiple assistants now that are head coaches across the NFL. I just want to make sure that I don't miss anybody. But yeah, Robert Saleh, he's now the head coach of the New York Jets. He was his defensive coordinator. DeMeco Ryans, defensive coordinator, now the head coach at the Houston Texans. And then you have McVay, who was partners with him and a part of that offensive staff in Washington when they were very successful.
Kevin O'Connell was there too.
Kevin O'Connell was there as well. And then the LaFleur brothers, they were both there with him in San Francisco, with us in Atlanta, and even in Washington too. Matt being the head coach of Green Bay now. And then most recently, Mike McDaniel, who I always told you was like the guru behind the guru.
scenes, yeah.
And I never thought that he'd be a head coach because I just thought he was too strange of a guy. And I'm glad that he is a head coach because he was a great leader. He was a great thinker. He was very authentic in who he was as a person.
Right.
I just always thought that in an interview, they'd be like, no way is $1 billion organization going to invest in this guy. But you see how great of a play caller he is, how creative he is for the Miami Dolphins team. And those guys leaving, I think, really motivated Kyle
I think so too.
To say, I got to do more. I got to be more creative. I got to rewrite how we do things to be successful because these dudes are leaving. They have been inside. They know how the sausage was made.
Right.
You know, they saw how everything was done, and he didn't want their, the secrets of everything to get out there. So he recreated himself, and I think it's for the better.
That's interesting. It brings me up to this. Being paranoid's a good thing.
Totally.
Just about whatever business
Especially
you're
in sports. Yeah.
Well, yeah, when you're working behind the scenes, on the scenes,
It's called a healthy obsession.
It is an obsession, but you like it too. Some people say to me, "Oh, do you watch every game?" I said, "Yes, I probably do every week." And I said, "It's a really rough life. I have to watch football games. What a tough." And they go, "Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, that's right."
Well,
but it's fun. It's fun, and I would think I know coaching's not as light because we don't cover it in depth like the coaches go through it. But yeah, you just never feel like most coaches I know, and I was under, especially like Bill Parcells.
Yeah.
Or Bill, but they're thinking all the way up to the game. They're never satisfied with the work week, with what they have in, and it's just they keep pushing and pushing.
And you mentioned too that Parcells had to step away from the game multiple times because he was that obsessive with his craft.
Well, yeah, he couldn't turn it off.
Yeah.
He lived it. And hey, I'll tell a quick story.
Yeah.
So
I love your story.
Well, so I walk in the locker room. I usually try to be the first guy there because I want to have my time to get settled and get in the room and watch a little film before somebody bothered me. So I walk in there one morning. The door comes open. I look across, and Bill Parcells is sitting in our table in the middle of our locker room, and he's got a cup of coffee. And I don't know, he might have been smoking it. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. But as soon as I see him, I look and he goes, "Hey, Sims, come here." And I could hear the tone of the voice. And I go, "Oh, my God." He goes, "Hey, how many passes did you complete in practice yesterday?" I'll tell you how many. I couldn't even get a word out. "Not very many." And now I'm just, oh, God, I'm so uptight. He goes, "I tossed and turned the whole damn night." And my wife says, "Oh, Bill, what's the matter? Why can't you sleep?" "My effing quarterback can't complete a pass." So this is 7:30 in the morning. Now, we don't go out to practice back then. I don't know what time we went out. 2 o'clock. So I had to live that the whole morning, knowing that practice, which was always the most important thing, every day, that this is going to be a tension-filled practice, and I better have a good day. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking out on the field, and Pat Hodson, who was our receiver coach, he knew all about this interaction, and he goes, "Hey, Blondie, I'll tell him it might be coming a little fast today." And I said something I can't even repeat here to Pat. "Hey, Pat, don't you worry about you," when I threw some F-bombs out there or whatever. But
you can say it if you like.
No, I don't want to.
We just got to say the podcast is explicit then.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. But talking about being on edge, and I really always thought that was one of the reasons why we were successful with him as the head coach, but practice was real. I mean, I never went out and hit every pass.
Yeah.
I mean, the defense is knocking it down. They're knocking my passes down to the line of scrimmage. And, of course, that's my fault. Get the ball up. And but that was just part of his.
Yeah.
That's who he was, and that's who we were, and that's why we had a lot of success under him. So.
Yeah, and that's why you guys won a Super Bowl, and that's why you guys were contenders each and every year in one of the most dominant divisions in the history of NFL football. And as Christopher would say, my brother, your son, right, that was the golden age of the NFL, too, to some degree, right, because of just the teams and the characters that were involved with those teams, especially in the NFC at that time, and how dominant they were.
But, I guess my whole point is being this. I kind of forgot. But,
it's okay.
But when I see Kyle and just watch him operate and just see his body language during the game, and I know what they're doing during the week, he's got a different delivery to the players for sure.
Yeah.
But it's still the same thing. He's delivered it in who he is, and Parcells did it in his way, but they're getting their point across, and there's no way you can play like some of these teams that play so well that if they're not really meetings and practice, just getting it done.
Yeah.
And like you said, you got to have the right group of players to withstand all this too.
Yeah. So we've kind of covered the physical and mental exhaustion that the Dallas Cowboys clearly had in defending the San Francisco 49ers offense. Dan Quinn, who I think has done a phenomenal job, Dan Quinn, the head coach of us at the Atlanta Falcons with Kyle Shanahan as offensive coordinator. Great little side story to that. Dan Quinn actually walked into one of our quarterback meetings, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. We're sitting there, we're watching. Very standard day as far as, hey, let's do this play. On this play, we can can it to this. We can do this. Hey, remember, if we get this look, we can formation to this and this. And it was maybe later that day or the next day, Matt LaFleur, quarterback coach at the time, walks in and he goes, hey, man, I just got to tell you, head coach just can't get over how much stuff we do and how aggressive we are with attacking the defense.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he said it too. He goes to his credit, Matt LaFleur, he goes, to Dan's credit, he goes, I'm going to spend more time with you guys to see and learn how you guys view the game and how you attack defenses. And that's what kind of leads to that innovation part too. This is a guy that knows him very well.
Right.
So he's also had to innovate again with a guy that knows him well.
I kind of forgot that.
And he wants to break rules that maybe Dan overheard or heard in these meetings and make sure that he can exploit them. Well, and it just kind of shows you that that wheel never stops turning. No. You're constantly trying to innovate and recreate success with things that have always worked in the NFL, but just in a new light. They're running the same plays that Bill Walsh ran. They're just doing it in a new, creative way.
With
and
different people.
Yeah, and that's the same with just so many things in life.
Give me this. A few questions for you.
Yeah.
One, Dan Quinn. Since he's been in Dallas, you've constantly been telling me
he's changed a lot.
How much he's doing is different, and
he's evolved a lot. So what made him a head coach was he was a part of that doomsday defense in Seattle. They were very 4-4. They were playing that cover 3 defense, really doing a good job of stopping the run, being aggressive at the line of scrimmage, but playing primarily like a zone cover 3 or match 3 coverage, keeping everything in front of them and stopping explosive plays. Because when you play cover 3, there's really only a handful of explosive plays that you can run to make explosives, right? To throw the football aggressively down the field. So what they do, they taught their defense every rule in the book as far as these are the plays that would expose us. Right. And then they would say, be aggressive as hell when you saw these plays. And of course they had great players to back it up. And it really was, I think, a cool way to approach defense where, listen, you know what we're doing. The question is can you
beat it?
Can you beat it? And can you be physical enough to beat it through 4 quarters?
Well, I think that was the genius of it, man.
Which was always very difficult. Yeah.
Keep it somewhat simple with great players and let them just
play fast.
Let them play fast, not be thinking too much. And that was Seattle in their heyday, and they did win a Super Bowl with it. Of course, we know they should have won 2 minimum, but whatever. That is a great thought, about them.
Yeah, and to elaborate on this with Dan Quinn, I would not be surprised if these two teams meet again.
Yeah,
that he goes back to that way of thinking. Yeah. We're going to keep it simple. We're not going to try to make all these different checks. We're not going to move Micah Parsons around to 7 different positions, would have been extremely effective against other defenses. We're going to keep everything very just right in front of us. No shifts, no motions will affect us or change the way that we view it. Now, of course, there'll be some little adjustments, of course, but not to the extent of having a lot of different plays on their defensive play sheet to where you have to adjust and make calls and physically exert yourself before the play even begins.
Well, let me ask you this too. Yeah. We did San Francisco's offense. We talked about a lot of things. I want to hear, we talked a lot last night just watching the game. San Francisco's defense.
Yeah,
I mean, it just
have to highlight that.
We don't even. It's not even part of the discussion. As I listened to all the shows yesterday, listened to radio a little bit, and even this morning, there's nobody is really saying anything about that defense. In which, what is your first thought when you kind of educated me a little last night talking about this? What's your first thought about the San Francisco defense?
It's scary, and they are a defense that is very like what I'm explaining now.
Yes.
They keep it very simple. It seems like they only run a few different coverages. They very rarely blitz or pressure the quarterback other than with their 4 or potentially when they go 5 down linemen, which we didn't see a lot of that in San Francisco. But think about this from the defensive perspective, right? For Fred Warner, who is probably he's the best linebacker in the NFL.
He's a top
right
5
now.
defensive player in the NFL.
I mean, he absolutely is. And he's just the heart and soul of that defense, and you can see it, man, the way that he flies around and how impactful he is. I mean, that strip on Tony Pollard was absolutely ridiculous, and that really was kind of the start of the fall for Dallas. But what I really thought about was how easy is it for San Francisco to play against Dallas's offense? It's super easy.
Yeah.
Why? They're in simple formations. Football 101, double right tight. It's just like all the basic stuff that you see each and every day. So how easy is it for them to communicate what their job responsibility is versus that? Because you know who they're practicing against?
Yes.
In camp? Kyle Shanahan's offense.
Yes.
And Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and Kittle and the shifts and the motions. So when you line up and you give them a look, and that's exactly the look that you're seeing pre and post snap, it's super easy for them to play fast and physical, and that's what I think they have a great advantage with. They practice against the most difficult offense they're going to see each and every week.
Every day in
other
training
than
camp.
Maybe the Miami Dolphins. That would stress them in the way that their offense does. Other than that, this was like, I feel like a cakewalk to them as far as how they look at their offense.
Yeah. Dallas got 197 total yards.
Yeah.
And I just got to say the game plan, and listen, I admire coaches, and I don't really get any joy out of ever saying negative things about any of them. Because when I used to do games and study, go out there and listen to them and see practice and all that, I go, wow, what a tough job being a head coach. But here's Dallas's offense to me.
Yeah.
Just so little movement. So they don't make anybody think on the other side at all.
The one touchdown that they had was off of
motion.
Motion.
Everybody's going, oh, my God, they were so creative. One guy went in motion and ran up the field. That's nice. But why didn't I see that other ways a lot of times?
Right.
So that's one thing. And, Mike McCarthy, even in Green Bay, and look, he's been an extremely successful coach. And look, he's had 2 good back-to-back years record-wise for the Dallas Cowboys. But, man, they throw a lot of slants, right?
A lot.
And it got them in trouble in the
2
game,
interceptions
too.
were off slants. And they really, to highlight this, the San Francisco defensive backs, I feel like, are very underrated.
Well, because we can't get to them. Why? Because we got to talk about everything else. And you again, I know, and it is like a little dark secret. Their safeties and corners, they don't get a lot of help. And they do get help with the pass rush. But they've done a really good job.
Yeah,
and
they do. And that's where, I think Ward and Lenore, both corners, I think very underrated, play extremely well. With the complements of the defense around them. They know exactly where to be, how to defend certain plays because they're expecting it in a lot of cases.
Right.
They're ready for these things. Hufanga and Gibson, unbelievable matchup there as far as the 2 safeties go. Both guys extremely talented, very savvy football players, very aware. Isaiah Oliver in the nickel also plays very well. We saw Oren Burks with the interception there late in the game.
What do you think when you see that? You go, oh, my God.
I mean, the fact that he's their 3rd or 4th linebacker
I know.
and he's still a really, really good football player just tells you. And then that's not even to mention, too, Randy Gregory now on their roster.
Well, Randy Gregory. Look, they're 8 deep at defensive line, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
I like that. But, I'm going to go back to this Dallas offense just real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
You knew it as a player and being there with Kyle and Atlanta and everywhere. You've studied football. And, I remember when we put certain plays in, I go, wow, this is so great. This is going to be open. I'm going to do this. And it's making it easier for me.
Yeah.
And that would be, getting back to my point. I just didn't think the Cowboys, look, they got talent on offense. I mean, I got to hear them today. Oh, they have no receivers. Because people want to protect the Cowboys that way. But no, make it easier for your skill people, but especially your quarterback. And I'm just going to say this about Dak. I like him. He's solid. I really thought he was going to play really, really well because of the playoff game last year.
Yeah.
And the opportunities were not great for him in the game. But that first interception, I don't know what was going on. Was that supposed to be a post route, a go route, and it's thrown inside, and it had no chance on either side. And that play really, like, I'll go, man, that really bothered me.
Yeah.
It was too easy.
I understand. And he played well early in the game. I thought he did a good job of managing just the emotions of the game, making completions, moving the football, playing tough. You know, he's throwing checkdowns, and the checkdowns are getting rocked. You know?
They were.
And that's part of, too, of, like, they're keeping everything in front of them at all times, which makes it very easy for them to then collapse and pursue the football aggressively.
I thought he did this better. I didn't notice it like I did in the playoff game last year. And I talked about it quite a bit during the week and all that, is that you're playing the 49ers. You understand all the guys that can get to the quarterback. So your process as a quarterback speeds up tremendously.
Yeah.
And I thought he played more under control as far as that.
Yeah.
You know, last year I thought there were plays to be had deep down the field that he didn't see. Why? Because he went through 1, 2, 3. And he did that a little, but I understand it too, checking it down, not taking a hit, not getting sacked, not causing a fumble, and just getting yards against the San Francisco defense. But that's probably all I'm going to say.
And this is where the Cowboys, their whole focus this offseason, we're going to make the offense more simple. We're going to run the football more. We're going to get the football out of our hands more quickly. That plays right into the hands of what San Francisco wants teams to do against them. Because they want you to throw it or try to run against their unbelievable front seven.
The league is not getting more simple.
No, I'm just making the point as far as, like,
that whole process that we're just going to line up and honk it down your throat. I mean, come on. That's not going to happen against these good teams.
No, just the way that you said that was funny. And then, you know, for their run game, 19 carries for 57 yards. You know, the one long run of the game was Tony Pollard for 10. And for the way that you're trying to play the game, that is not going to help your quarterback. And Dak, it's not all on him because, it is all on him because he has to play absolutely perfect for them to win the football game. And we know, as good as anybody, this is not a game of perfection. It's not a game of perfection for the quarterback position. But the Dallas Cowboys have to do more to create more explosive plays. I mean, the fact that all we talked about this whole offseason, Brandon Cooks, what he's going to do this. I don't even notice Brandon Cooks on the field. He had one catch for 7 yards. I don't even notice him on the field. No. So what good is his speed on the field for us if we're not using it in some creative way? Right. You know, they get the ball to Turpin on the one motion play. They occasionally run screens and other gadget plays to him, but his explosive on the game was the 26-yard touchdown. Right. He finished with one catch for 26 yards. So it's just one of those things that on paper it's a great idea, but that's why in these certain one-off games where you have to win if these teams meet again in the playoffs, you got to throw away what got you there to some extent, and you got to say, we got to break rules here. We got to put the defense in a stressful position, and they just don't do that enough, and it's too basic, and it's putting Dak in terrible positions to be successful.
Let me just say this, and it's going back along, but just from the play.
Yeah.
We were a running football team, but there would be weeks that we can't run it. We're going to throw it, and it was an aggressive game plan to do that because they understood – you know, whatever. Like, let's just say the Washington Redskins at the time. The first game one year in 1986, we ran the ball at will.
Yeah.
Then we go down to Washington, and they go, there's no way they're going to let us run.
Yeah.
Just no way. So the game plan completely changed. And I think that's what you have to do against these really good teams. You constantly got to give them something different to catch them off guard, to have more success for your players. But I want to go to this. You talked about Kyle, you know, moving forward with what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we don't, and this is going to be quick. They drafted Trey Lance. They go, well, we're going to change our offense. Now let's have some runs for the quarterback and do this and be just different from what he was kind of going with the passing game and all that. And it's a good thought. But that didn't work out because of injuries and other reasons. But you and I were talking too. Drafting. When you look at teams that are struggling, they're just having one bad draft after another. Mm-hmm. And John Lynch, I mean, they are knocking it out of the park with players.
Yeah.
Just, I don't even want to go through them all, but George Kittle, he was a fourth rounder. I'm just going off the top of my head here. How about that? They trade for Trent Williams to change their Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. My gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, that too. How about that? What round were they drafted in? Greenlaw was a fifth rounder. Oh, Fred Warner went high. He went in the third round.
But you're right, though. I mean,
it's on it.
It's
both
the best
everybody.
Linebacker combo in the league, other than maybe Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith with Baltimore. Honestly,
these guys are faster.
They are faster, but
that's saying a lot.
But
too,
those other guys are awesome too.
But trading for McCaffrey, like I said, getting Trent Williams. That's another. And then you said it earlier, going out and get Randy Gregory, just go, let's fortify it a little more. And really getting him for nothing. So that part.
That's just the spoils of war for them to some degree. We're really good. What's bad in adding a veteran football player that's talented? And if he can hang with us, great. And if not, we're already good. So
what do you think? What would your first thought be when they traded for him? Here's what I thought. He's going to get into that environment and go, oh, this is different.
This is awesome.
And if I want to even get part of this, I got to really get it going.
I think Tashawn Gibson feels that way. This is a guy that's, a veteran that's been around the league.
Right.
People have probably wrote him off. He gets in that environment, and look at him now. His whole career has been revitalized, and now he's, a relevant safety again on the biggest stage. And now people are realizing, oh, yeah, he's been a good player for a long time now because he's on center stage. And I think he knows that too. And he's been playing phenomenal. And
you know what? Just to not to get ahead.
Go ahead.
But later here, stay with us, everybody, because we're going to talk a little bit about the New England Patriots and certain processes they've had where it's not worked, and that's why they're in the position they're in. So
no doubt. So the advantages of just the scheme, both on offense and defense, having a tremendous effect on the San Francisco 49ers. The angles and shifts and blocks and all that stuff, like you said, is a very real thing. Micah Parsons, if you watch that game, just a quick note on that.
Yeah, I want to hear
There's
it.
multiple times in the game where, he thinks he's free off the edge.
Right.
And he thinks that he is going to crush the play.
Yeah.
The problem with him thinking that is that was designed for it to be that way. There's multiple plays where he is off the line of scrimmage, and you could see him. He's like, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm going to blow this up. The problem is that Juszczyk was waiting for him on a few of those plays, or he was left alone on purpose just for him to run himself out of the play.
Right.
And that's where the difference in the scheme is really that impressive. The other thing, too, you mentioned Trent Williams. Micah Parsons looks like an athletic freak in every football game that I've seen this year, except for against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
I see him as just another football player out there where he can't even take advantage of his athleticism. Trent Williams has absolutely won that matchup. When it is just a straight rush, one-on-one, Trent Williams, there has never been a doubt. I feel like it is just like, okay, no problem. And he just stays right in front of him. And that just tells you how athletic and how good he is of a football player.
Big man, little feet. Watch out.
I mean, and, there's always those stories, too, about how he could do 360 dunks and all that kind of stuff, too. And, you believe it because he is doing an unbelievable job out there against a very talented defensive line. And it just shows you, look how good this defensive line looked against the New York Giants.
Well, everywhere. The Giants, the Jets, the Patriots.
It just shows you one of my favorite lines in Moneyball, written by Aaron Sorkin, was Brad Pitt. He goes, here's the MLB, here's the Yankees, and then there's 50 feet of crap, and then there's us. And really, it's kind of like that in the NFL right now. You got the Eagles, you got the Niners right there, and then I feel like it's everybody else. One team that I think is kind of on their way up is the Detroit Lions. They've been doing. Yeah, I know they're not quite like them yet, but they're getting
watcher.
there.
I watch them every week.
But the reason why I say that too, because they're a team that's trying to do more with their scheme. They're creative. They're also getting great production out of their draft picks. So that's why I mentioned them.
I know. I love their draft. Laporta. Oh my gosh! Not that we're going to get into that much, but I'll just say that as Jared Goff. Their play action pass game is tremendous. And probably the first thing I would do if I was the Lions to go out and spend some money, I would give Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, a contract that he can't turn down.
No doubt. I would too.
Please don't be. I don't even, you know what?
Overpay
I don't even want him. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Overpay him a lot from offensive coordinators because if you lose him, it would be, to me, what's the correlation? We're going to lose Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and Dre. We're going to lose them all. I mean, that's what I think. I think he's that important to the team. And just watching him this past week, I know it was the Carolina Panthers, just like going, wow, the rhythm of everything they do. And you know what? I don't care who's understudied him or whatever. You're not going to do it the same as Ben Johnson is doing.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know why. I just think that. And
no, I hear you. And,
yeah.
and that's why I mentioned they're a team that's trending in the direction of these other two,
they
behemoths
yes,
in the NFC. And that's where, and we didn't get into Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy.
Oh, yeah, my God.
I know.
Please,
and I'm
let's
sorry.
do it. Go ahead.
Brock Purdy. He's a really, really, he's a great NFL quarterback. That's really what it is. He's a great NFL quarterback. Now, hey, is he the strongest arm guy? Is he the most athletic? Well, I know one thing. He's 6'1", he's 220. He's a little bit bigger, and he's a more better athlete than people give him credit for.
When you said that this morning, you know Brock Purdy's 6'1", 220, and I go, he is
But he
thick.
looks strong on the field.
He
right?
does.
So, and the other aspect that he's got tremendous experience.
Yes.
He's played a ton of college football. Very, Iowa State was only relevant when he was there. Haven't heard of Iowa State since then. But no, I'm just kidding there.
That's kind of
true.
But
and the other aspect, too, is that he has Kyle. He has the offense. He has great skill guys around him. He has great protection, right? The scheme is fantastic. He has Brian Greasy, who is a tested NFL guy that's been around it for forever with his family. So he has just an unbelievable surrounding environment and atmosphere to him to be successful. And then great coaching is allowing him to do the things that he does great. Yeah. He throws the ball extremely accurate.
He can get rid of it.
He's tough in the pocket.
Yep.
He makes good decisions. It seems like he's always looking where he needs to look when he's playing the football game. And I think all of these things, if he was on this off. Listen, if he was on a lot of other offenses in the NFL, he probably wouldn't be as good. But you could say that same thing in the reverse effect for a lot of quarterbacks too.
Sure.
And it just doesn't matter because the fact is that these two are married to each other and it's not going to change.
Yeah.
And Brock Purdy is a really good quarterback, and that's all I have to say.
If we could do, well, it's well said. And, he's taking advantage of all the circumstances that are presented to him. And that's what you do as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Can you make all the routine plays? He's doing that, of course, and more. And if we could do film, which I'm hoping we will here soon, is there's one drive, he goes 5 for 5, and I go, man, that was like a highlight. Those two soft throws over the middle in the same drive.
Yeah, the in cuts.
Man, and the design of the plays were, I was just like, oh my God, the defense, I see it all the time, how Dallas was playing it, but they occupied everybody where he could just loft it over the middle nice and soft, where most quarterbacks would wait, see a little more, and try to drive it.
Right.
He threw it with great touch. And the other thing is, we talked about earlier, he's throwing it outside. He throws a lot of perfect spirals. Even who did he throw it to? Kittle, when he moved out of the pocket to his right and threw the one on the run.
Yeah.
I mean, man, that was right out of the book
that was beautiful.
As teaching a quarterback.
Yeah,
he got his ass out of the way. He got his...
And that was a play, too, where the play was designed to go to Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
They were running a little halfback option out of the backfield. So it was like Ayuk with a, one-on-one to Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
And they're basically saying the linebacker's not going to cover Christian. Did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
He probably could have snuck it in there if he wanted to. But he felt the pressure. He moved up. He moved.
Yep.
George Kittle did a great job moving along with him. And then he found him in the back of the end zone for a beautiful touchdown. So, and the other aspect to go with this is that, the offense gives him good completions to start the game.
Yeah, he gets
so
him in
then he
rhythm.
can be aggressive as the game continues to go on. And when you do have that, it is true. Just you get easy completions here. Then, your offense starts rolling, and then your confidence soars through the roof, and then you start to be more aggressive throwing the football down the field, and that's what we see each and every game from the San Francisco 49ers. They start with their completion, nickel and dime. Then it's like, then they open it up, and they start to be more aggressive because they know their quarterback's in rhythm.
I think that's easy to say about Brock Purdy. I mean, everybody's talking about him, and I kind of feel bad that we waited so long to bring him up. But he started the season. Let's don't forget the offseason wasn't normal for him and all that. I thought it was a little, for the 49ers and him, I thought it was a little sketchy early. And I thought, wow, it's not
we
quite,
said that last week, too. He wasn't quite as sharp the early
clicking.
weeks.
Yeah, and think about why.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I never put that in. And I got to say this, too. I was a little hesitant, and I said, I'm like a lot of people. I want to see more. And these last couple games, man, he's been super sharp. And he's
Yeah, I
going
mean,
to have to throw 7 interceptions in a game before I back off of anything, because he is really good. And like Kyle Shanahan, I can see he gets a little little red ass, okay, when people say things about Brock. He goes, he's good. Let's get over it.
Right.
And I think, too, just the fact when you told me this morning he's 6'1", 220, I was like, damn. But I did listen to their telecast when he was a rookie, or his rookie year. Well, that was his last year, my God. And, you know, they're a guy that's, oh, man, I'm losing the guy that's their color guy on the radio and all that. Oh, Ryan. I can't think of his damn first name. Sorry. But he said during his rookie year, his rookie campaign, during preseason, if this guy was taller, we'd be talking about him totally different. He'd have been drafted different.
Right.
And I'll just say maybe it's a good thing he wasn't 6'4".
Well, no.
So
I mean, listen, it's working out for all parties involved.
It is. So that's great.
And this is where sometimes it's better to go later in the draft, right? Because you find, you know, an opportunity like this.
Well, you got to get the opportunity, yeah.
No, and he got the opportunity because of injuries, and that's part of the game too, and that happens each and every year, right, for football players. And that's what's great about the game too, because if those injuries never happened, Jimmy Garoppolo still might be the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. And, you know, listen, you think Jimmy's missing the San Francisco offense a little bit, you know, with what I see in Las Vegas right now? Yeah, I would say so, because it's a lot of work for Las Vegas to move the football right now. They're not as creative on the offensive side of the football.
No, they're just
and here's another bold take right now. Brock Purdy, he's a better quarterback than Bryce Young. He really is.
Well, it's hard to argue that right now.
I mean, no, and I'm just saying, like, he's bigger, he's stronger, he throws the ball just as good as him.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, what's the difference? You know, so that's what you got to really think about when you're evaluating these quarterbacks. You know, and that's what I find interesting is that Brock Purdy, to me, is a better NFL prospect right now than Bryce Young from what I've seen. Now, I know Bryce is a rookie, and I know he's going through growing pains, and he's going to go through those, you know, but, you know, physically, Brock does everything that Bryce can do and maybe a little bit more of it. Yeah. You know, and now if you flip it, if you put Bryce in that offense, okay, he's probably playing better, you know. But again, you could say that about anybody across the league,
sure,
you know, in this instance. But I just don't want to take anything away from Brock. He's a really good football player. He's making great decisions, and he's the perfect leader for that team. And that's really all that matters, because he's another football junkie like the rest of them.
You know, just hearing some of the stories and veterans talking about him, even when he was a rookie in training camp. You know, they just was like, wow, this guy acts like he's been here 10 years.
Yeah.
And just his demeanor. Even during games, you don't ever see him get excited, really, to a degree, and you never see him get down. And, you know, even when the game was over and he was on the sideline, he was just like, did you play?
Yeah,
You know, he had some attitude, and
He's very stoic.
Very stoic, and I think that's one of the reasons why he plays so relaxed and just thinks things through. And it's a great story, but he's turning out to be a tremendous player too.
All right, so
yes,
you know, that was a great breakdown of that football game. Well, it really, no, I mean, it was fun, you know, and I hope that we show.
I hope we talked about some things that other people are not thinking about. That's always my goal. You know, that's why I like watching the games, because you're going to see something that I can't. Well, you know, they're 4 for 7 on third down.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, and when he's pressured as a quarterback, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
Okay, you're pressured. What type of pressure? Who are you playing with? Are your receivers any good to get open? But we put it all in a box, and we just let me give you some more numbers that whatever. But yeah, I want to switch here.
All right, so go ahead. What do you want to go to?
Well, we got to go to the New England Patriots. I mean, it's not the fact that
we're going to do it kind of quickly though, because
they're 1-4. Well. No, you made it long.
Yeah, that's right.
No, they're 1-4, but it's not the fact they're 1-4. It's the way they're losing and the way they look. And how do we start this? The New England Patriots, Bill Belichick won 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
How many did he lose? I don't even know. I didn't even
2.
know. He lost 2. Yes, both to the Giants. They were ahead of the curve in many ways for years.
Right.
And I'll give you the first one. They created the slot receiver in my mind with Julian Edelman. They brought him in after Wes Welker, whatever. So they did it. And they did plays that nobody else was running. So that was one. So number 2 would be they created the double tight end. And you go, well, everybody plays 2 tight ends. No, not like New England did. The passing concepts, Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski, both could run. They could catch. They could run routes. And they created a different passing game. And then number 3, 4 wide receivers. What'd they do with that 4 wide receiver thing? They went 16-0. And who were those 4 wide receivers? Randy Moss, Wes Welker, and I don't know if people, this might be too old for a lot of people, Dante Stallworth and Jabbar Gaffney, 2 under-the-radar really good players. And I did a lot of those games. And let me tell you, a lot of
Troy Brown.
And Troy Brown was on that team. Oh, my gosh. And the offensive line, which we'll maybe go through after a while.
Well, yeah, I mean, Logan Mankins, Matt Light, they're the 2 superstars on that offensive line.
Yeah.
And your tight end group was Ben Watson and Kyle Brady for that same team.
Ben Watson could outrun probably all the receivers. He was so
that's
fast.
That's quite a skill group.
But
you're right, the schemes.
They were always ahead with it. And, of course, you wrote down a lot of the talent that was there on the defensive side. And then the 4th, and I'll never forget, I'm up there. Maybe it was training camp or the first game of the year. I think I did 80 or 80 plus New England games in my announcing career.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But all of a sudden they go, oh, you see James White over there? I go, yeah, he looks whatever. Receiver, we're going to throw more passes to the running back. We're going to do this. And they were kind of the first ones to really do that.
Right.
I'm not saying they were the first, but they, what's the word for it? Magnified it in their thought process. And, of course, Charlie Weiss started it with a 2-back offense, won a couple Super Bowls with them, the first one against the St. Louis Rams. And then what? Who was after that? Josh McDaniels. Twice was a coordinator up there.
Then Bill O'Brien, then Josh came back.
And there
because
Bill
Bill
O'Brien
left to be the head coach of Penn State, I believe,
right.
at that time.
So, so here we are, and I think my point is just this. What do they have now?
Right.
What position on the field? Do they have speed? No. Do they have anything unique in what they're doing? Well, no, you don't have enough speed. The league has changed. They were big, and the defense was beyond big and talented, and they kind of ran through that for a while, but then they started creating all these new offenses.
You're right. So this is what I want to highlight, the
Go
points
ahead.
that you're making, and because it's a great discussion too. When the NFL was more focused on being really good on the defensive side of the football, defense wins championships, cliche, all that, Bill Belichick was alpha. He was numero uno as far as that go.
Right.
Won 2 Super Bowls, stopped the greatest show on turf in '99, just physically beat up the best offense that we had seen in the history of the NFL. And it's crazy too that the Dolphins just broke their record this past week since '99. So that's crazy. That just shows you how efficient they were. But Bill Belichick, got where he was in his position, as being a great defensive play caller. Won 2 Super Bowls with you guys. You guys were mainly built on running the football, being great defense, and then you just throwing absolute missiles down the field to Bavaro and all that kind of stuff. Well, you invented the back shoulder. That's for sure. I know that.
Well, I don't know if we invented it, but we sure took it to another level.
You took it to a whole nother level.
Bill, I don't know if new fans, I hope are out there. Bill Parcells said to me once, it was a preseason game, and Mark Bavaro was the primary target. I didn't throw it to him. He goes, why didn't you throw it to Bavaro? And I said, because he's, because he's covered. And he goes, Sims, don't you understand when he's covered, he's open? And I just, the really sad thing is I understood it.
Yeah, I hear you.
And we started throwing it everywhere. And, of course, Mark and Zeke Mowat, they could catch anything. It didn't matter where you threw it. But go ahead.
Yeah, and so, he's got his thing going with the defensive side of the football.
And
right?
unique on offense to a degree, too,
no
as
doubt.
they went along.
As they continue to go after Charlie Weiss, when the rules start to change, then they start to be innovative with Josh McDaniels on the offensive side of the football. And that's where we get the double tight ends, the slot receiver aspect of it with Wes Welker that was highlighted, the empty formations, which was very college-like at the time at the NFL level, very innovative, helped Brady throw 50-plus touchdowns in that season.
Wow.
So that was creative in itself. And then the ability to draft phenomenal football players. So the reason why we made this correlation is because when we were having our discussion of what to talk about, the 49ers are innovative and they're talented. The time of Bill Belichick's reign, with Tom Brady, and of course, and everyone just talks about, well, he doesn't have Tom Brady. Okay, but he still had a really good football team around him. They were balanced on all sides of the game,
No
right?
question.
Offense, defense, and special teams. They had skill players that were absolutely fantastic. Their offensive line and defensive lines were ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they were innovative on the offensive side of the football and the defensive side of the football before the rules changed in favor of the offense. Then it became more prevalent on making sure the offense was that way. But the reason why we highlight this is that now we don't see that from them. We see a team that doesn't have talent. We see a team that is slow. There's no skill guys that really make you say, we got to worry about this guy.
And defense, not enough speed.
And defense, not enough. Now that Matthew Judon and Christian Gonzalez are injured and potentially out, for an extended period of time, it's a concern. But look at this defensive crew.
Oh, this is awesome.
Right, for the New England Patriots when they were as good as they were back in the day, right? So we have Vince Wilfork.
Yep.
We have Richard Seymour. We have Mike Vrabel.
Right.
We have Ty Warren.
Right.
Jarvis Green. Aldis. Adalius Thomas. Excuse me. Teddy Bruschi. I said Richard Seymour, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Roosevelt Colvin. Rodney Harrison. Asante Samuel. Ellis Hobbs. James Sanders. That's all on the defensive side of the football. Junior Seau was a backup linebacker for you.
There you go.
So this is a team that is loaded with talent on both sides of the football. Now, we already highlighted the receiving core and what they had.
Give me your guy that you told me last night. And Dad, you forgot this. Who was that?
What position?
Oh, well, as soon as I say it, come on. He won many games for him. Adam...
Oh, my God, of course, yeah. And then Adam Vinatieri.
Clutch kick, don't worry, down the middle.
No doubt. So that was a guy that just, he's the cherry on top of this situation, to go with, of course, the GOAT and Tom Brady.
Right.
But that's where we just wanted to highlight that Tom is great. We're not taking anything away from Tom.
No.
But Tom also had an unbelievable cast of characters that played their roles extremely well and were the reason why this team was a pain in the butt for all of those years.
I think you said two things. The draft, they were hitting big-time free agents they were hitting.
Yeah.
And they were staying ahead of the curve on the offensive side always.
Right.
After that they won those first two with just the offense that, everybody was running, one or two tight ends, two running backs a lot, two wide receivers, pretty basic stuff. And then as it moved along, they ventured out and started changing everything.
Yeah, no doubt. So, and this were, guys like Scott Pioli, Nick Caserio, having a tremendous influence.
Right.
Jack Easterby, behind the scenes with the New England Patriots and how they selected football players. And now we see it more so as just Bill being the only one that does it. And yeah, for right now, it's failing, and it's failing very quickly. And they're in trouble for this season. And it really doesn't look like it's going to get any better for them. So the question will be is just, how long can they survive like this? And, what kind of position Bill will be in. Because we know that Bill is a great coach. But I still don't know how long you have as far as a recovery when you had two defensive coaches as your offensive coordinator a year ago, and now the offense with a better offensive coordinator that looks better designed still is underperforming because of their lack of athleticism, all over the field.
Hey, look, you can coach all you want. And, I can't remember all the stories I tell all the time. But I'll just take me. I could have worked on sprinting my whole life. It wouldn't have mattered. I worked harder than anybody else. I knew more than anybody else. The gun goes off. My butt's coming in last. And that's just a fact. So it's hard, no matter how well you coach and do what you do, if they can't do what you're trying to teach them because they're not physically capable of doing that and reaching new heights and making it work, then you're going to lose football games. That's what they're doing now.
So we just wanted to do that, the Jekyll and Hyde of the NFL, what it takes to be great in the NFL right now. The truth of the matter is in the NFL, you don't need one number one receiver anymore. You actually need two number ones.
Absolutely.
And you need a really, really good tight end that's a receiving tight end in the NFL
Which
today.
we're seeing everywhere now.
And we're seeing more fullbacks, but we're seeing fullbacks, too, that can kind of do a little of everything and almost act as if they're a tight end / halfback in some occasions. So the skill groups are a must, right? They're a must, and we just wanted to highlight that and discuss that.
Go ahead. Go ahead, big guy. I want to bring this to you. So we want to. How much time we got?
Yeah, we're running on empty.
All right, well, good. Let's do it real quick then. Let's just do one. Let's do the brothers, high school guys, a college quarterback. You train got a lot of college quarterbacks that are really doing well, and high school quarterbacks that are really doing well. I want to go to the family. Charles DePrima at Harvard. Give me what's going on with him.
Yeah, Charles DePrima right now, he's the starting quarterback for the Harvard Crimson. And it was cool. I talked to Kyle Juszczyk on Sirius XM NFL radio late after their game, and I gave a shout out to Harvard. And he even said, too, that the coach is raving about Charles. Charles this past weekend versus Cornell was 12-19 for 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the other impressive aspect, too, and this is something I definitely don't teach him because he is just gifted with this ability, 9 carries for 152 yards and 3 touchdowns.
He can run.
Yeah, dude's like a legit 4 or 5. And yeah, Harvard right now 4-0, playing extremely well. Charles DePrima, who is a Ramapo guy,
our local high school.
His younger brother, Ramapo here in northern New Jersey. Christopher, my brother, your son, went to school there and was a pretty good player there too. And his younger brother now, Landon DePrima, is the starting quarterback there. He's having a great year. He was actually just County Player of the Week maybe 2 weeks ago as well at Ramapo, so he's having a phenomenal year. He's committed to Harvard as a receiver. But he still practices quarterback, and he's a very good quarterback. He makes a lot of great plays. And, Ramapo again with Landon, Jack Russell the year before that, Christopher.
Charles before that.
Charles DePrima, Charlie Granatel,
Charlie.
all the great QBs, Tommy Groves. Who else am I missing here?
Big Mike.
Rob Tardio.
As a quarterback. Boston College.
So, shout out to all the Ramapo QBs. Sorry I didn't go to Ramapo. I went to Bosco instead. It worked out pretty well for me. But, the Ramapo guys doing their thing, and Charles DePrima, super impressive.
Yeah, it's really exciting to watch. It really is.
Yeah,
just to follow.
Chuck the father must be so pumped.
Oh, man.
And, so it's a cool story that we want to share. We want to share more of these stories each and every week, too, about our quarterbacks that we work with and coach, and it's pretty fun. But
hopefully next week we're going to have some really good news. Well, other guys, we'll mention them next week, but big week coming up.
Yeah, always a big week coming up. And we know we were heavy today with the Cowboys and the 49ers. But
that's all right.
We'll expand upon some more things. We just thought that this was the most interesting matchup to discuss, and we had a lot of great talking points about it, so we wanted to share it with you, our listeners. Please follow me, Sims Complete QB, on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah.
Phil Sims, at Phil Sims on Instagram and Twitter. And then this will be available on our YouTube page. You can find it on Believe.com as well. And we appreciate everybody for tuning in, and hopefully we'll bring you more NFL news each and every week.
Yeah, I want everybody to text you about questions, anything they want us to talk about, because we'll have the answer.
Yeah, so. I won't answer them. But, thank you again.
We'll do it on here.
We'll see you again next week.
All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Matt.
Toodles.